Sonic Movieverse Book 2, Gotta Go Fast Chapter 1 The Return.
Race you to the house.
No fair, you got a head start.
What are you waiting for, then? Hurry up, Slowpoke.
The Youngers were puffed up at the challenge.
You're on.
He growled, accelerating to catch up to the blur in front of him. Sonic smirked.
Come on, is that the best you can do?
All he got in response was an orange ball speeding past him, giggles of glee echoing in the volley around the dew.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
The speedy hedgehog stated, letting out a whoop as he boosted himself forward until he was running side by side with the flying fox.
It's about time you catch up.
Retorted Tails, shooting his surrogate brother a grin.
For a second there I thought you were slowing down.
The hedgehog looked incredulous at the idea.
Me slowing down? I'm just getting started.
Boys.
Maddie's voice reached them from a distance, circling the young boys for a quick moment.
Dinner's ready.
Sonic adopted a mischievous expression on his face.
Last one, there's a rotten egg.
He shot forward, leaving the kit behind. Tails gasped.
No wit up.
He attempted to gain some extra speed as well, but he had to face reality. He was no match for the blue blur himself. He reached the house, softly panting as he caught sight of his brother, waiting for him by the front door.
Hey, you made it.
The hedgehog greeted, holding a stopwatch in his hand.
And I think you beat your record again.
Oh, that's not bad.
Tails humbly remarked, landing on the ground by Sonic's side, glancing at the object in the latter's hand.
Not bad. You can actually keep up with me. That's impressive, buddy.
The kid blushed, bashful.
Oh, well, thanks, Sonic.
He received a smile in return.
No problem, little bro.
Sonic rested a hand on the fox's shoulder, patting him in congratulations.
Come on, let's head inside.
Tails nodded, and the two wasted no time in walking inside the house. As they made their way to the kitchen, the younger boy began to reminisce. It had been several months since he now lived at the Wachowskis' house. He had grown accustomed to the humans, at least the ones from Green Hills, and he couldn't deny that he started loving life thanks to Sonic. Still, there was a certain guilt that still clung to him. Once his namesakes had healed, Sonic had honored his promise. The two were to return to Mobius and attempt to save their home planet. Tom and Maddie regretfully let them go, having gotten attached to the two aliens in very little time. Nonetheless, they understood how important this mission had been for them. And, when the downtrodden two returned with news of a barren wasteland, the couple welcomed them back with open arms and unshed tears. Heartbroken for the boys, the two aliens grieved for Mobius and for Longclaw, their valiant caretaker. Their best hope was that the owl was safe in another world, but even that was wishful thinking on their part. And so, the humans welcomed both aliens back into their household, and the four creatures became an odd family, but a family nonetheless. Months went by with barely any hiccups, aside from a sketchy cafe in the middle of town which they all avoided for unknown reasons. The townsfolk accepted Sonic and Tails' presence as if it were meant to be, which warmed the sheriff's heart.
Tails.
The fox's thoughts were interrupted by a gentle call of his name. The sheriff in question was staring at him with concern for his science.
Are you alright?
Tails shot him a grateful smile.
Yes, just thinking.
Tom chuckled, ruffling the boy's bangs.
Don't think too hard. I think there's smoke coming out of those ears of yours.
The kid squealed, backing away with a giggle. Sonic watched the exchange with a laugh of his own. Maddie joined in, fanning the smoke away from her face.
Oh my gosh, I think it's too late. Quick, we have to get rid of it.
Her husband, catching on to what she meant, quickly grabbed the fox, holding him up. Tails shrieked with laughter, squirming in his hold as the woman slowly creeped forward, ready to tickle her young charge.
Come on, Sonic.
She beckoned, pulling the hedgehog closer to her.
I will need some help.
No!
Tails protested with a gant grin on his face, holding his hands up in front of him to protect himself.
You're supposed to be on my side.
He missed the wink Sonic threw his way before the blue blur pounced on Maddie, who didn't expect it.
With Sonic?
She exclaimed, catching the teen in her arms. She let the two of them fall on the floor as gently as possible and held onto the hedgehog tightly, attacking his sides with nimble fingers. He squawked with a cackle, trying in vain to escape her hold. Tom followed her lead, sitting down in front of the two with the little fox still in his arms. He began to tickle the kid, who evilly struggled to escape, tears of laughter streaming down his face.
I yield.
Tails begged, trying to catch his breath. The sheriff let him, keeping the kid in his arms in a loose embrace as the two of them chuckled. The hedgehog pressed his hands against Maddie's arms, evilly out of breath.
Maddie, stop. I've had enough.
The two of them collapsed in a heap of laughter, joined by the man and fox in front of them. The family of four collectively breathed, dinner forgotten on the table as they bathed in the joyful atmosphere. The next day, the glow of a ring could be found in the living room, which had been rearranged by Sonic to resemble an airport gate. Tails stood by the door frame with a fake officer hat and a pair of Tom's sunglasses, which the man snatched with a chuckle.
I'll be needing those, buddy.
Sir, show me your passport.
Tails ordered with the best stern voice he could muster. He failed to keep up the impression, however, and found himself giggling. Maddie smiled.
You are the cutest officer I've ever seen, Tails.
I take offense to that.
Tom squawked, looking back at her. She winked, stealing a kiss from him. Sonic dashed forward, covering his little brother's eyes.
Cross, you don't need to see that.
Hey.
The fox protested, still cackling to himself. The humans took advantage of the fox's momentary blindness and squeezed past, stepping up to Sonic's homemade metal detector. The hedgehog bolted to his contraption, holding Maddie in her steps.
Step right up, ma'am.
He pulled out a rolling pin, imitating a handheld detector, and waved it in front of her. The woman danced, letting the hedgehog do his thing, and soon she was allowed to move forward. While Tom's turn came about, Tails, who was shaken out of his stupor, joined Maddie by the ring, handing her a small gift.
For me, how nice of you, kiddo.
She cooed, holding the object in her hands. At first glance, it looked like a very small disc, but she figured it was something else entirely. She never knew with the ingenious fox. Tails nodded.
If you ever get in trouble, just throw it at someone's feet. It's gonna send them flying up and away.
The woman blinked, stunned.
Well, that hurt them. You know I don't like violence, only.
When it's necessary, I understand.
The kid interrupted with a gentle smile.
I don't like it either, but your safety comes first. Besides, this won't send them too high or too far, so you don't have to worry too much. Just consider it, in case of an emergency.
Maddie brushed the fox's cheek tenderly, smiling as he leaned into the touch.
I appreciate it a lot, buddy. I'm happy I have two amazing boys to look out for my husband and I.
She glanced at Tom, who was standing by her side.
Isn't that right, babe?
The sheriff nodded with a smile of his own.
That's right. We're really like the new boys. In fact, we're so lucky that we count on you to watch the house, right?
You can count on us.
Tails exclaimed, perking up.
You've got that right?
Sonic added, high-fiving his little brother. The two humans melted at the sight.
All right.
Tom started.
You stay safe. You mean, stay out of trouble.
Yes, sir.
The two boys shouted, standing to attention. The sheriff chuckled, ruffling each of their heads while Maddie stepped into the portal, waving them goodbye. Tom followed suit, sparing one last glance at the two aliens in his house.
Call me if anything's up.
He managed before the portal closed, the ring disappearing from sight. The two boys waited for a few moments before shooting each other grins.
You know what I'm thinking?
Sonic asked, a mischievous look growing on his face. The younger Mobin immediately caught on.
Party hard.
Sonic and Tails whooped, fetching all of their supplies. It didn't take long for the living room to turn into a complete den, with snacks flying everywhere and bubbles covering the entire floor. Ozzy zoomed by, hoping to catch all the crumbs he could, while the hedgehog and fox enjoyed a bubble bath, pretending they were eel in a sandy beach. A few hours went by before the shrill of a phone interrupted their fantasy. The two scrambled to clean everything up. They managed to make it in a few seconds only, plopping down onto the sofa, and Sonic answered the video call from Tom, who checked in on the duo and made them promise to call before bed. After they hung up, Sonic stretched with a yawn, lazily getting up from the sofa.
I'm going for my evening run.
He started.
You coming?
The fox looked through the window, noting the setting sun.
No thanks. I don't like running when it's getting dark.
He settled deeper onto the sofa, wrapping his namesakes around himself.
Besides, someone's gotta watch the house.
The hedgehog shrugged, ruffling his little brother's bangs.
Suit yourself, Batty.
The younger Mobian squawked in protest, waving Sonic off with a giggle.
Be back in a flash.
And with that, Sonic was off yet again. Tails sighed, shaking his head with a smile. Only Sonic the Hedgehog could enjoy running so much, all the time. He yawned, curling deeper into the sofa, clutching the television remote in his hand. He scrolled through the channels, catching sight of a few interesting documentaries about true crime and nature, and he mentally stored them for a later watch. The television suddenly shut down, the lights flickered, and Tails stilled, chills creeping up his fur. It seemed unlikely to be a sudden power outage, and there were no signs of any thunderstorms in the area for the night, so he was wary of its cause. He investigated, getting up from the sofa and slowly walking into the hallway. And then he heard a thud, coming from outside.
Sonic!
He called, wrapping his tails around himself for comfort. Another, louder thud followed, signifying its closer proximity.
Sonic, this is you, it isn't funny!
His eyes caught sight of a quick spark, before something began to cut around the doorknob in a slow, menacing pace. Tails gulped, bracing himself for a fight. While he was no pushover thanks to Sonic's and Tom's self-defense lessons, he had also never needed to put his newly acquired skills to use, and he was nervous enough after being alone for a little while. Attempting, the doorknob fell on the floor with a clang, and the door slowly creaked open, revealing the figure of a bald man with a funky mustache. The kid's fur bristled as he stood his ground, attempting to conceal his fear.
Who are you?
He asked, hoping he sounded menacing enough. The man tisked, rubbing the tip of his mustache with his fingers.
I must come knocking at the wrong house. I could swear a little hedgehog lived here.
Tails snarled at the funny-looking human, only sensing malicious vibes from him. Whoever this was no friend of Sonic's and therefore no friend of Tails either.
Who are you?
He repeated, taking one step back despite himself. Nothing good could come from this. His nerves seemed to vibrate in his body as the man softly began to chuckle. The chuckle grew into amplifying, maniacal laughter.
My name is Dr. Robotnik and rhyme is of no importance to you yet, my fussy little friend.
The fox took another step back as the mad doctor stepped forward, towering over Tails. Tails cursed himself, wishing Sonic were here to help. He took a deep breath, channeling his inner hedgehog before glaring at the human, standing his ground.
Tell me, now what you want, right now.
That reminds me.
Robotnik interrupted, weirdly gleeful.
Have you met my good friend?
Wait,
Tails thought, taking notice of the shorter, red figure behind the mad doctor.
is that?
He yelped, dodging an otherwise unsuspecting blow to the face. The red creature fully came into view, lightning sparking from his eyes and fists. The fox gasped. He was a Mobian Echidna.
Wait,
Tails pleaded, dodging a flurry of blows as he kept backing away.
stop, I am from Moby's toe, where are you? Siding with Robotnik.
Silence.
The Echidna yelled, finally catching the kid on the chest, sending him flying through the wall and the television. The younger Mobian cried out in pain, landing on the couch with a loud thud. He clutched his chest, blinking at the hole in the wall as the dust settled, revealing the Echidna once more.
Where my manners fought. Meet Knuckles.
The human and Echidna stepped into the living room as the downed fox cawed, backing himself against the wall in a feeble attempt to hide away from the enemy. Knuckles scoffed, harshly grabbing the kid by the neck.
Heck, let me go.
Tails wheezed, feet dangling uselessly in the air as the Echidna held him against the damaged wall by the throat. He ignored the fox's weak attempts at being released, threateningly bringing his face closer to the kid's muzzle.
Shot at you and you creature.
He growled, pulling his mouth into a snarl. The fox whimpers fell on deaf ears.
I could easily dispose of you and now.
Robotnik tutted.
What you want, my angry friend? After all, we have a use for him.
I'm going.
Yes.
The deranged human calmly replied, smirking to himself.
I believe we can lure Sonic right to us with his little friend here. From there, you will be able to defeat him once and for all. You can get rid of the fox once you win.
Knuckles contemplated the idea, glaring at the swarming child in front of him.
I suppose I will entertain your plan, but it better bring the lonesome hedgehog to us faster.
The man's smirk grew darker.
Trust me, it will.